Elysia 4 was a quiet human colony, far away from the world humanity once called home. The sky was a soft pale blue, and the air smelled like fresh leaves from the biodomes. People lived in peace here, growing food, repairing buildings, teaching children, and exploring the new land. The colony was calm, but calm did not mean complete. Some hearts carried silent storms. Among those hearts was Aiden Hale, a young engineer. Aiden was calm, hardworking, and quiet. He spent his days repairing communication towers, power cores, and machines left from the early colonists. Everyone trusted him. They said he had careful hands and a patient mind, but every night Aiden had the same dream. In the dream, he stood on a broken bridge under a burning sky, and beside him was someone, a woman, her hand holding his. He couldn't see her face clearly, but he felt warmth, a feeling like home, a feeling like love. And then, before he could speak, the dream ended. Every morning he woke up with an ache in his chest, like he had lost something but didn't know what. On the other side of the colony lived Leora Venn, a botanist who worked in the biodome gardens. She cared for flowers and crops, studied soil, and taught children how plants breathed life. She smiled kindly, but her eyes always seemed to carry a soft sadness. Because she had her own dream too. A laugh, a voice, a touch, a promise she could not remember. She would wake up with tears in her eyes, but she did not know why. The colony database held no records of them ever meeting before Elysia 4. No shared classes, no shared assignments, no shared past. Yet whenever they passed each other in the colony walkways, their hearts reacted. Not loudly, not suddenly, but quietly, like two familiar songs softly overlapping. Aiden always lowered his eyes first. He didn't know why he felt nervous. Leora always smiled when she saw him. She didn't know why the sight of him gave her peace. They lived separate lives, close but unknown, like two stars near each other but never touching. One afternoon, Aiden was repairing an old communication satellite near the edge of the colony. The satellite was broken years ago, damaged during the early terraform storms. He removed rusted panels, checked wiring, and restarted the internal computer. Suddenly, a notification blinked on the screen. Encrypted memory archive found access requires 2 DNA identification. Aiden paused. Memory archives were from the time before Earth fell. They were valuable and rare. He leaned closer. The screen showed 2 silhouettes. One looked like him, the other, he could not identify. He felt his heartbeat quicken, but he could not access it alone. It required someone else. He didn't know why, but he felt he already knew who. That evening, Leora was closing the biodome garden. She watered the last row of small blue flowers, flowers she had grown herself. They were gentle flowers that opened only when they felt safe light. She whispered soft words to them, not because they needed it, but because she did. When she stepped outside the dome, she found Aiden waiting quietly near the entrance. He looked nervous, unsure how to speak. She placed her basket down and smiled softly. "Hello, Aiden," she said, though they had never spoken before. She said his name like she had always known it. Aiden swallowed. "Hi, I think I need your help." He explained about the archive, the 2 DNA signatures, the unknown connection. Leora listened carefully, but her heartbeat began to rise. She didn't understand everything, but she knew that something inside her was waking up. "Let's go," she said without hesitation. At the old satellite terminal, Aiden entered his DNA key. The screen glowed. First key accepted. Aiden Halethan. Leora pressed her hand on the scanner. Second key accepted. Leora Venn, the encrypted file unlocked. A hologram projected into the air between them. It showed Earth, not the destroyed Earth they learned about in history books, but Earth as it once was. Blue sky, green trees, tall cities shining in daylight. Then it showed a group of people in uniforms. soldiers or volunteers, and they could not tell which. Then it zoomed closer. Two people stood side by side, Aiden and Leora, holding hands, laughing, alive, together. Leora's hand lifted to her mouth. Aiden's eyes widened and filled with disbelief. Their hearts raced not with shock but with recognition. The hologram continued. A voice echoed, recorded long ago. If the past is too heavy, we will forget. If the pain is too deep, we will erase. But love remembers. If we lose each other in memory, we will find each other in another life on another world. Leora stepped closer to the hologram, tears rising in her eyes. Aiden's hands trembled. They were not strangers at all. They had been lovers before, separated by war, separated by evacuation, separated by memory wipe protocols meant to heal pain of loss. They had promised to find each other again, even without memory. And they had. Not through history records. Not through knowledge, but through something deeper. Something that survived when everything else was erased. Their hearts had remembered. Leora looked at Aiden, slowly, carefully, like one approaches something precious. Aiden, she whispered, voice soft, shaking. So, we didn't fall in love now? No, he said. His voice was gentle, almost broken. We lost it, and we are finding it again. The air around them felt warm, full of something real, something strong. Not sudden love, but returned love, recovered love, ancient love that had waited patiently inside their souls. Leora stepped closer. Aiden did not step away. Their eyes held, not as strangers, but as two hearts finally recognizing each other after a long journey through time and loss. The hologram faded slowly, leaving only quiet wind and soft evening light. Aiden spoke first, voice low and honest. We have to learn what happened. We need to know who we were. Leora nodded. Yes, but one thing. We already know. What? He asked softly. She placed her hand over her heart. That we never truly stopped loving each other. Aiden closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, the ache inside his chest eased. They didn't fall in love. They were returning to a love that had always lived inside them. Waiting, remembering. End of part 1. The next morning on Elysia 4 began quietly, as most mornings did. Suns rose slowly behind the green ridges, and soft orange light touched the colony buildings. But inside Aiden and Leora, the calm sunrise did not match the storm of thoughts running through their minds. Yesterday everything changed. They did not just discover a memory, they discovered themselves. Aiden woke early. He didn't sleep much, not because he was troubled, but because his heart felt full and awake. The dreams he had seen for years suddenly made sense. The warm hand, the laughter, the silent longing. It all pointed to Leora. She wasn't just someone he found beautiful. She was someone he had already chosen once before, and fate, or life, or something else, had brought her back to him. Leora also woke early. She sat in the biodome garden before the workers arrived. She watched the small blue flowers open to artificial sunrise light. The flowers opened slowly, gently, like hearts remembering how to feel. And Leora's own heart felt the same way, blooming, but careful. She placed her hand over her chest. I am not afraid, she whispered to herself, but she was. She feared that this love once lost might slip again. She feared remembering pain. She feared what had happened on Earth. But she also knew. Some truths must be faced, especially the ones that stand between two hearts. When Aiden arrived at the biodome entrance, Leora looked up and smiled. Not a new smile, a familiar one, the kind that had lived in her heart long before memory. They greeted each other softly. No rush, no confusion. They simply walked together, their shoulders close as if the space between them was already home. They went back to the satellite memory archive. Aiden activated the terminal, and Leora stood beside him, ready. More files were locked inside. They opened the next one. A hologram appeared, this time showing a city on fire. Not destruction, but evacuation alarms. People running, ships launching, the sky burning red. A voice spoke. The Earth cannot survive the war. We must leave. We must protect the memory of who we are. Then the hologram showed the two of them, younger, wearing evacuation uniforms. They carried supplies, they helped children board ships. They held each other's hands in quiet moments when they thought no one noticed. Aiden whispered, "We were rescuers." Leora nodded, eyes soft. "We were trying to save people, not fight." The hologram continued. To prevent trauma, all volunteers will undergo memory removal before new colony placement. Love, grief, loss, all of it may break the mind in a new world. Only the heart may remember what the mind forgets. Then it showed the moment. Aiden and Leora standing in a white room, holding each other tightly. Tears falling, knowing they would soon forget. The recording of Leora from the past spoke, voice trembling but strong. "Even if my mind forgets your name, my heart will not forget your soul." The recording of Aiden replied, "We will find each other again somewhere, somehow." The hologram faded. Aiden and Leora stayed silent for a long time. They did not cry loudly or break down. Their pain was soft, the kind that is heavy but gentle, the kind that does not destroy but transforms. Aiden finally spoke. "We were strong back then." Leora smiled faintly. "We still are." But now they had another problem to face. Not everyone in the colony believed in peace. The remnant movement and a group of colonists who resented the past believed humanity should rule again. They wanted to rebuild old power. They believed the galaxy feared humans, and that fear was strength. Their leader, Commander Reelan, was bold, charismatic, and angry. He had lost his family in the war and believed peace was weakness. When the EK remnants learned Aiden had accessed an Earth memory archive, they became interested. Too interested. That afternoon, Aiden and Leora were called to attend a colony council meeting. The remnant leader was there. Commander Reelan stood tall, eyes sharp. His voice was strong, but his words carried a quiet threat. "We heard you accessed a restricted archive," he said. Aiden answered calmly. "It was activated accidentally during satellite repairs. We did not hide anything." Reelan narrowed his eyes. "We want the file," he said. Leora stepped forward. "Why?" Reelan's face did not move. "Because the past gives us power, and power is what humanity needs." Leora shook her head. "No, the past teaches us compassion. We left Earth to protect others, not to conquer them." Reelan smiled, but it was not warm. "Some of us believe survival requires strength. The galaxy is dangerous. If humans do not stand above others, we will fall." Aiden spoke then, clear and firm. "Strength is not domination. Strength is protecting life." The council watched in silence. Reelan's expression darkened, but he did not argue further. He simply said, "This colony will need to choose what future it wants." It was not a threat, but it felt like one. That night, Aiden sat outside under the artificial stars, deep in thought. He did not fear Reelan. He feared what anger could do to hearts that had already forgotten love. Leora joined him quietly, sitting beside him. She didn't ask what he was thinking. She already knew. "Aiden," she said softly, "do you think the colony will divide?" Aiden looked out across the quiet city lights. People who forget love always look for something else to fill the empty space. Sometimes that becomes fear. Sometimes power. Leora nodded. "And we just remembered love." She rested her head on his shoulder, slowly, gently, with trust that was older than memory. Their closeness did not feel new or strange. It felt like something that had always existed. Aiden placed his hand over hers. Not fast, not dramatic, not bold, just natural. We can help them remember too, he said quietly. Leora smiled. Yes, not by force, not by arguments, but by showing them what we lost and what we found again. The night was quiet and warm. Over the next days, Aiden and Leora began to decode the remaining memory files. They learned more about Earth, its downfall, its hope, the final mission to save life rather than destroy. They recorded everything, carefully, respectfully. They shared the story with trusted teachers, caretakers, and elders, people who valued humanity's gentle strength. Some listened and understood, some cried, some felt their hearts soften. But the remnant movement grew louder. They spread fear among young colonists, speaking of threats beyond the stars, enemies waiting to strike, dangers that required power, weapons, and control. They said love was weakness. They said peace was foolish. They said memory was a trap. But hearts are strange things. They remember even when the mind forgets. And slowly, quietly, many colonists began to feel something again. Connection, empathy, hope, not because Aiden and Leora forced them, but because truth speaks on its own. But peace never stands alone for long. One night, alarms echoed across the colony. Life support system, failure. Oxygen levels falling. Someone had sabotaged the system. People panicked. Children cried. Lights flickered. Aiden knew immediately who was responsible. The remnants wanted to show that peace was fragile, and fear justified their power. Aiden reacted fast. I know the infrastructure. I can fix it if I get to the core systems. Leora grabbed tools. I'm coming with you. They didn't run because of fear. They ran because lives depended on them. Together through smoke-filled hallways, failing air ducts, and flickering lights, they reached the control facility. Aiden repaired power circuits while Leora recalibrated oxygen distribution. Their hands moved in perfect harmony, like they had worked together all their lives. Because once, they had. Within minutes, oxygen flow stabilized. The colony breathed again. Children stopped crying. People realized who had saved them. Not the remnants, Aiden and Leora. Not through strength. Through love, unity, and memory. But the remnants were not finished. Their leader watched them from the shadows, eyes filled with something painful, something that looked like both anger and longing. He whispered, They remember love, so now I must make them forget. The sky over Elysia 4 was pale pink as dawn broke, soft and gentle. But beneath the calm, the colony held its breath. The remnants were planning a direct takeover. Their leader, Commander Reelan, wanted to seize control of the colony's defense grid, not to conquer the stars, but to prove humans could dominate again. Aiden and Leora knew what had to be done. Not with weapons, not with anger, not with cruelty, but with the truth of who humanity really was. They gathered the colonists in the main hall, a tall building of light and glass. Everyone came, curious, worried, or frightened. Children clutched their parents' hands, workers and scientists looked around, unsure who would speak first. Aiden stepped forward. His voice was calm but firm. We face a choice, he said. Fear or hope, anger or love. The remnants want to take control with threats, but we have something stronger. We remember, and even if we forgot before, our hearts remember. Leora moved beside him. She held the memory device, now fully decoded. She lifted it and a hologram spread across the hall. Images of Earth appeared. Oceans, forests, mountains, cities of light. Then the people. Their hands. Their work. Their laughter. Their love. The colonists watched silently. Some gasped. Some wept softly. The story was theirs, but also something they had forgotten. Leora's voice trembled but held steady. Look at this, she said. This is who we are. Not conquerors, not destroyers. We were survivors, we were helpers, and we were lovers. Even when the memory was gone, love remained. And love saved us before. Love will save us now. The remnants were silent at first, unsure how to respond. Commander Reelan's face was unreadable, but inside, anger and doubt churned. He had planned fear, But what he saw was stronger. Unity, memory, humanity at its best. Aiden spoke again. Strength is not power over others. Strength is protecting life. Strength is remembering who we promised to be. That is what made humanity great once, and it can be great again. Some colonists began to clap quietly at first, then louder. Children smiled. Adults nodded. One by one, hearts shifted. The remnants found their influence slipping. Reelan tried to speak, to shout, to command. But no one listened. They remembered now what mattered, what truly defined them. That evening, the remnants made their move anyway. They activated defense drones, trying to seize the colony's main systems. But Aiden and Leora were ready. Follow me, Aiden said. We do not fight to kill. We fight to protect. The two moved through the halls, guiding colonists to safety while using the drones' programming against them. Leora hacked the control panels, redirecting drones away from people, shutting weapons down without harming anyone. Aiden repaired power lines, restored communications, and coordinated the colony's defenses with a quiet confidence that inspired everyone. The remnants were skilled, yes, but they had underestimated one thing: the bond between people who remembered love. It was not brute force that stopped them. It was strategy. It was cooperation. It was the power of hearts united. By midnight, the takeover had failed. The remnants were contained, their weapons neutralized, and most importantly, no one was hurt. In the days that followed, the colony began to heal. Trust returned. The children played safely again. The fields and gardens flourished. Aiden and Leora worked tirelessly, not as leaders but as guides, showing what humanity could achieve when it chose unity over fear. People began to speak openly about Earth, about the mistakes of the past, about the love they had forgotten. Slowly, memory returned in fragments. Faces, stories, laughter, kindness, and all remembered in the hearts of the colonists. Even some of the remnants changed. They realized that control and fear had never brought joy. Seeing Aiden and Leora work, remembering their love, reminded everyone that strength could come from gentleness, courage could come from care, and humanity was not measured by power, but by the lives it touched and protected. One evening, Aiden and Leora climbed to the top of the central observatory. The twin suns of Elysia 4 were setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. The colony glowed beneath them, alive and strong. Aiden turned to Leora, smiling softly. We did it. We didn't just save the colony. We reminded everyone who we are. Leora placed her hand on his cheek. Yes, and we remembered ourselves. They stood together in silence, the wind brushing their faces, their hearts synchronized. For years they had searched for a love they could not name. For years they had wandered through dreams and half-remembered feelings. And now finally they were home, Aiden whispered. We didn't fall in love. We returned to a love that always existed. Leora smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. A love patient enough to wait through war, memory, and time. The stars began to shine faintly in the early night sky. Lights in the colony flickered as children played and families laughed, unaware of the danger they had just survived. And yet in every heart there was something new. A memory of love, courage, and hope. A memory that would never be forgotten again. In the weeks that followed, the colony rebuilt and thrived. Aiden and Leora continued to explore old Earth archives, teaching history, engineering, and botany to children and young colonists. They told the story of humanity not as conquerors, but as protectors, helpers, and lovers. Every day they reminded people that true strength came from memory, love, and unity. And every evening they returned to each other hand in hand, never forgetting the bond that had survived erasure, separation, and war. The remnants were allowed to stay in the colony, but now they were teachers of caution, not fear. They helped rebuild, learned from the past, and slowly became part of the community, witnesses to a strength that no power could take away, the strength of the human heart. And finally, Aiden and Leora looked at each other, no need for words. They had returned to the love they always had. Not new, not sudden, not fragile, but eternal. Elysia 4 thrived, not because it was safe or powerful, but because it remembered what it meant to be human, to love, to care, and to hope.